Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us. I'm Tom Burgess, Vice Chair of the Hillsborough County Democratic Committee. Our Zoom webinar tonight is about the Free State Project in New Hampshire, and our guest speaker will be Jeanne Dietsch.
Hello.
For those of you who don't know her, Jeanne entered politics after a career as a tech entrepreneur. She served one term as a New Hampshire state senator. Unfortunately, she lost her re-election bid in 2020. After her loss, she began researching the Free State Project and its actions in our state. For the last 4 years, she has worked through her organization called Granite State Matters and in coordinated efforts with groups like Kent Street Coalition to shine a light on the Free State Project and to reveal what their ultimate goals are for New Hampshire. Jeanne will speak for about 30 minutes, and then we will have a 30 minutes left to answer your questions. And as you see on the bottom of your screen, there's a Q&A section. That's where you should type in your questions. And then Jeanne will answer as many of them as possible in the half hour left of our presentation. And now, without further ado, Jeanne Dietsch.
Hello. Thank you all for joining me. I'm going to share my screen. I have a presentation, and here we go. Way too many people in New Hampshire don't know that hiding in plain sight amidst our beautiful forests is a cult called the Free State Project. They've worked for 22 years to turn our state into their libertarian homeland. You probably don't know Dennis Pratt. He's one of the Free Staters working to attract 20,000 liberty-minded people to move to New Hampshire and to get the rest of us to leave. A lot of people do know that Kelly Ayotte signed an expansion of tax-funded voucher subsidies to the state's wealthiest families. What they probably don't know is that the Free State Project claims responsibility for this tax-funded giveaway. But even most Free Staters don't know the full story of the half-century of work that went into making this happen. And this is the story I'm about to tell, so we can wake up New Hampshire. The story has 3 parts. First, we'll see just who they are. Then we'll look at who and what groups are empowering them. And then finally, we'll start planning how we can take back our state. So who are these people determined to take over and push out those who've lived here for decades? Well, libertarians have been around in the US for nearly a century, but a Yale political science student named Jason Sorens was tired of their slow progress. He came up with a plan for libertarians to focus on one small state. It was published in the Libertarian Enterprise, July 2001 issue. Take a look at it. Start reading. Established residence in a small state, and so this was their goal. Once we've taken over the state government, we can slash state and local budgets. The Free State Project would start when 20,000 people signed up to move, and in 2003, they reached their target for signups and chose New Hampshire as their libertarian homeland. The influx began. So who are the Free Staters? Well, many of them are just their sort of 21st century hippies who want to start a small business or a farm, smoke their weed, shoot their guns. The cult attracts more men than women. A Boston TV series on the Free Staters interviewed a young man who said he'd never had a friend before he joined the Free Staters, and his new friend had never had a friend before either. But some of the leaders you've heard of. For instance, Lily Tang Williams ran for Congress. Greg Moore, you see here in his current position as the director of Koch's Americans for Prosperity, New Hampshire, proudly supporting the Citizens United decision behind him. Back in 2001, Moore was chief of staff of the New Hampshire House. Then we have Jason Osborne. He was elected to the House in 2014 and is now House Majority Leader. Carla Gericke is a former Free State Director and a New Hampshire State Rep. And then, of course, we can't forget our founder, Jason Sorens. He was been a fellow with the Koch Mercatus Center at George Mason University since 2008. It's a libertarian think tank. And in 2018, the Kochs donated $1 million to St. Anselm's College and hired Sorens to direct their Center for Ethics in Society. This is Sean Faber. He just took over the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance. The Liberty Alliance is the political arm of the Free State Project. They rank legislators according to their votes on liberty bills, and they primary the ones who don't follow in lockstep. Rachel Goldsmith heads the Hillsborough Moms for Liberty. They're the ones who offered bounties for reporting teachers. So these are some of the leaders of the Free State Project. The Free State Project gives tax write-offs to donors, so it pretends to steer clear of politics. Here in their June newsletter, they mention that some of their movers just happened to run for state legislature, and they explicitly state their affiliation with the Liberty Alliance and Koch's Americans for Prosperity. I'm pointing out this admission in their own newsletter that they're affiliated with Koch's Americans for Prosperity, because otherwise this whole thing could just sound like another conspiracy theory. The canvassers in this photo were paid by Americans for Prosperity. They worked to convince New Hampshire voters to support libertarian bills. But the AFP is not the only billionaire group that helps in New Hampshire. The Texas Young Americans for Liberty claimed that young people it hired knocked a total of 26,000 doors, made over 100,000 phone calls, and dropped 22,000 mailers in New Hampshire. It hires youth here to support Texas libertarian priorities. The Young Americans for Liberty also runs a training program to teach state candidates to vote libertarian. Most states send 1, 2, 3 people. So the obvious question is, why are billionaires from Texas or the Kochs from Wichita, Kansas so damned interested in New Hampshire? Well, this kind of led me to another question I'd always wondered about for the 3 decades I'd lived here. And that's, why is New Hampshire energy policy more like oil states, Texas or Kansas, than our fellow New England states? So we have got no coal or oil. And here you see we're ranked 35th in energy sustainability. Well, I knew the Sununu's were renowned for their climate denial. When John H. Sununu was chief of staff, he convinced George Bush I not to participate in the first climate accord. Sununu's son blocked climate measures as a U.S. senator. Another son consulted to the fossil fuel industry. So I decided to look a little further into the Sununu's. And guess what I found out? Who attended MIT together? Why, Charles Koch, John Sununu, and David Koch for years. But I learned something even more surprising. Guess who ran on this ticket in 1980? Take a look at this, this platform here. To be abolished, Department of Energy, Environmental Protection Agency, Food and Drug Administration, OSHA, FCC, FTC, FBI, Federal Reserve, Social Security, Welfare, Public Schools, and Taxation. Gosh, does that sound familiar, huh? And who do you think it was? David Koch, in 1980, ran for vice president on the Libertarian ticket. And this platform only got 1% of the vote. So whose platform do you think this was? Economic growth, world at peace, family, community, workplace, and fulfill the hopes and aspirations of all Americans, black, white, women, men, young, old, urban. Who wanted that? Jimmy Carter? Nope. It was the Republican conservative paragon, Ronald Reagan. So you tell me, are the Free State Project and their libertarian allies Reagan conservatives? I don't think so. So just what do libertarians believe? Well, they do not believe in democracy or the Constitution. Democracy and the Constitution say that a majority may pass laws that everyone must follow, and libertarians consider rule by majority law to be coercive. So when you hear libertarians talk about liberty and freedom, they mean freedom from regulations, no zoning laws, no one overseeing child welfare, no hazardous waste or clean air restrictions, no public road maintenance, no public schools, libraries, parks, swimming pools, ski areas, playgrounds. When there are no rules, might equals right, and billionaires are free to monopolize everything and lease it back to the public. For instance, Blackstone owns 65,000 houses. They bought up entire neighborhoods of foreclosed homes during the recession. Blackstone owns properties in Lebanon, Durham, and Nashua. Taking houses off the market raises prices. Blackstone raises rents, renters have nothing left to set aside for a down payment. And look at those profits. Kelly Ayotte was a member of the Blackstone board until after the election last fall. Over 5 years, she was paid $750,000 out of the profits off those foreclosed homes. Blackstone is just one example of how wealth exploits people under libertarian policies that lets them do as they please. The question is, how did we get from the Republican platform of Ronald Reagan to the platform that is driving policy in New Hampshire and the nation now? Surprisingly, an early mover in the Free State Project was one of the initiators. Have you ever read A Libertarian Walked Into a Bear? Well, that book was about Tim Condon's Freetown Project in Grafton, New Hampshire. But before moving here, Tim Condon and some fellow students in Florida helped found a group called the National Republican Liberty Caucus. The mission of the Republican Liberty Caucus for over 2 decades has been to convert the Republican Party platform of Ronald Reagan into the Libertarian platform of David Koch. And they're not too far from succeeding, are they? Well, obviously, it took a lot more money and organization than just Tim Condon and his Florida bros. We've looked at who the Free Staters and Liberty Alliance are, the hippies, their leaders, their beliefs. The next chapter in our story is about those behind the agenda. So we're back to the Kochs. After they only won 1% of the electorate in 1980, they signed on to fund a multi-decade plan to take over the government by other means. Now, the Kochs and their wealthy colleagues own companies plagued by hundreds of millions in fines from the EPA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. It's taken their firms to court. A jury awarded $200 million against them for defrauding the government. And their father was a leader in the John Birch Society. He taught the Koch boys that government is evil. So naturally, they support a party whose goal is to destroy the agencies plaguing them. Well, the Koch network is notorious for the extent of its capture of both governmental and civil institutions, especially after it pushed through the Citizens United decision that let them spend without limit on elections. The network took over media outlets, set up think tanks and activist groups in each state, lobbied for laws to make the wealthy wealthier, and helped the Federalist Society stack the courts. At first, the Koch network treated New Hampshire like any other state. They set up Americans for Prosperity New Hampshire. They funded the Josiah Bartlett Center for Public Policy and got their friend John H. Sununu to chair it. But it wasn't until later that Jason Sorens convinced them to focus on New Hampshire. The Kochs donated $1 million to St. Anselm's in 2018, and St. Anselm's made Sorens director of what they called the Center for Ethics and Society. So now you've seen some of the players behind the Free State Liberty Alliance agenda. Let's track just how these groups work together to thwart the will of the majority and promote billionaire libertarian interests while actually harming many Free Stater and Liberty Alliance members, as well as the general public. We'll replay the EFA voucher story from the beginning. At the beginning, in February 2021, the New Hampshire House heard the original bill. In the largest participation ever seen, 3,198 voters signed in to oppose the bill. Only 600 signed in favor. So what happened next? Well, the bill started from ALEC. ALEC is a group funded by corporations and wealthy individuals to write templates for state bills. They feed templates, like educational vouchers, to state legislatures through their ALEC chairs. Representative Ken Weiler was an ALEC chair then. Representative Weiler leads the New Hampshire House Finance Committee 1, which is responsible for the state budget. In order to avoid any further public discussion of the unpopular voucher bill, Weiler had it tabled, and he slid it into the massive budget. Meanwhile, you remember this fellow, Greg Moore, head of Koch's Americans for Prosperity? He had the AFP send out tens of thousands of postcards that say, "What would you do with $4,600 toward your child's education?" And of course, the Josiah Bartlett Center distributed a policy paper to legislatures and the press in support of the bill. Since the bill was tabled and hidden in the budget, the public never got to discuss it again. The budget passed with the voucher bill. Governor Sununu signed it, saying he couldn't possibly veto an entire budget just because of one item. But let's think a minute. Why would our Free State fellow, whose motto, by the way, is taxes theft, why would he support vouchers that increase taxes? Well, probably he wasn't really paying attention, or maybe he's just supporting his team. It most certainly never occurs to him that vouchers will end up not only raising taxes, but his own rent through property taxes. And he probably doesn't even have a child to benefit from the vouchers. After the vouchers and other Liberty Alliance priorities passed, the vice president of the Charles Koch Institute, William Ruger, and Free State founder Sorens named New Hampshire the freest of the 50 states. Governor Sununu attended the ceremony at the Cato Institute. We talked about the Kochs being plagued by regulations, but why are billionaire libertarians so set on destroying public education? Well, of course, if they closed the public schools, taxes would drop. But another reason is just as important. Children must be taught to oppose their right to public services, democracy, and equal opportunity. And, of course, the power of the teacher unions has to be crushed. And meanwhile, billionaires can hire low-skilled labor for less. And some of them, such as Betsy DeVos, own for-profit education companies that benefit from tax-funded vouchers. So by 2022, as promised in Sorens' original Free State proposal, the Free State Project had begun to defund the state government way beyond just careful management of a Reagan conservative. They cut revenues to engineer a future budget crisis. They continued to defund nursing homes, state parks, pensions, the arts, and public services. The Free Staters were well on their way to achieving their goal at the state level. But when they started in on local budgets, people began paying attention. Croydon libertarians fired their police department and closed their library, but when they cut the school budget in half at a poorly attended meeting during a blizzard, townspeople fought back. Replaced the budget, but not until after libertarian actions gained a storm of national press coverage. And then the libertarians tried to privatize the profitable public gunstock ski area. Management was so mad they walked out en masse, closing down the region's largest employer. The public woke up. Belknap County created a bipartisan anti-extremist voter guide. People wrote dozens of letters to the editor. There were yard signs sprouted statewide. Kent Street and Granite State Matters sent out 104,000 handwritten postcards, and I bet some of you listening tonight helped. As a result, the Free Staters lost their hold on the House Republican caucus and Democrats were close to parity with Republicans. So the Free State Project hired a new director, Eric Brakey, a Libertarian state senator from Maine. Brakey had served as Maine chair for the Ron Paul presidential campaign, and that was the group that had formed the Young Americans for Liberty in Texas. Brakey convinced the Young Americans for Liberty to dedicate $1 million to winning back the New Hampshire legislature. Kelly saw where the money was and sought the support of the Free State and Liberty Alliance leaders. Here you can see her with Free Staters Rachel Goldsmith from Moms for Liberty, Jeremy Kaufman, who runs the New Hampshire Libertarian Party Twitter account, New Hampshire Majority Leader Jason Osborne, and his wife, who runs a voucher-funded school. Aod embraced their support despite their vicious actions and questionable practices. In 2024, the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance won almost half of GOP seats. The previous spring, the Young Americans for Liberty, the Texas group, sent their president up to speak to Liberty candidates and others at the New Hampshire Liberty Forum in Nashua. He came to lobby against raising the New Hampshire gas tax. I want you to listen for a minute to Sean Temia from Texas, speaking in favor of a bill that would stop any publicly funded organization or person in New Hampshire from promoting their cause to a state or town body.
We are starting the charge to make Liberty win and ensure that we can continue fighting in New Hampshire. And it's things like ending taxpayer-funded lobbying, right? The notion that the Department of Transportation can take your money and spend that money on paying a gas tax lobbyist to go out and advocate for a higher gas tax seems a little silly, right? It seems like something that should garner bipartisan support. Your tax money should not be spent on lobbyists who want to enhance the government.
So I want to make sure you understand what's going on here. So Temia's Texas group sent him up to oppose the New Hampshire Department of Transportation requested gas tax increase after a decade to help cover road maintenance costs in New Hampshire. But the bill Temia is lobbying for would go far beyond that. Whoops. We skipped one. If passed, the New Hampshire Municipal Association could not testify about bills affecting towns. The Department of Children, Youth, and Families could not testify about children. School superintendents could not testify about schools. Quashing publicly funded voices means that only private corporations and billionaire lobbyists are heard. Removing regulations lets the wealthy control what happens. Democracy is here to protect the public from being controlled by the mighty, whether they're kings or corporations. Without it, we do not have freedom. We have might versus right. Might equals right. This year, the Libertarians tried again to exert control over localities, but they ran into the same resistance as last time when they tried to cap local school spending. So House Majority Leader Osborne made clear that they intend to achieve their goals through state-level mandates regardless. They intend to deny communities the right to control their zoning, school spending, energy, and environmental policies. We have to put a leash on some of these local governments, he said on WMUR. They since erased the interview, by the way. Anyway, the Libertarians' goals are to attract thousands of Liberty voters with mass, low-cost housing tracts, regardless of town zoning. They're promoting bills that remove local regulation over energy generation, that outlaw the ban of small nuclear facilities, that deny towns the right to regulate noise and pollution. Why? They're trying to attract crypto and AI server companies that they've invited to open server farms here. The cooling fans on installations with thousands of servers can be heard over a mile away. Removing local control will let them accelerate their plan to move more libertarians here and take over the state. So the ending of the story is up to us. How can we take back our state? First, we need to understand that while there's big money behind these groups, the number of active Free Staters in New Hampshire is small. This is a photograph of their packed house that came to hear the featured speaker at the cult's annual National Pork Fest celebration. Note the male-female ratio here. It's typical of Free State membership. So how is it that these few Free Staters and Liberty Alliance members win? Well, the outside money certainly helps. But the way Free Staters win is smart. They run for low-level office, make friends in community groups, farmers markets, the school committee, and so on. And they hide or even deny their affiliation with the Free State Project or Liberty Alliance. It's like the fellow in the taxes theft t-shirt who supports vouchers, many of them don't realize that they're being manipulated for exploitation by the wealthy. Free Staters are fewer than 1% of the voter. We certainly do not have to let them dominate the legislature and tip the scale on the governorship. We showed in 2022 that we can take them out of power bipartisanly. So first, we need good people to run for office, and that means more of you. Secondly, we need to be smarter about our messaging. When you're in your bubble, talk all you want about myriad issues, but when you are trying to persuade the public, keep it simple. Research shows that the more points you bring up, the less powerful your message. Thirdly, tie your message to your community. How will putting a leash on towns hurt your community? Is zoning the key issue? Is the state squashing your region's desire to build a multi-town solar plant? Are libertarians trying to pass a school funding cap? And then look at property taxes. How is the state's refusal to pay their share of public employees' benefits or cuts to Medicaid? How is that going to impact your property taxes? Or how have vouchers already impacted your district's costs? We have to make it local. And that means IDing the Liberty Alliance candidates in your town. If they're already serving, that's easy. The Liberty Alliance lists them for you, and they also publish a list of their endorsed state candidates before an election. Figuring out local candidates or new state candidates not on their list is harder. A few clues are here. We have a whole list of questions you can download at our website. But for instance, do they want to ban local control? As we've discussed, do they want to defund, close, or totally deregulate what they're elected to run? Are they privatizing public services in a way that excludes low-income residents? For example, in some counties, they've been privatizing the nursing homes that then have to kick out people with nothing but Medicare. Are they trying to bar officials and publicly funded nonprofits from testifying on behalf of their constituents? These are just a few of the ways, but we have to insist that candidates tell us who they are so that we can inform voters. So that's the story. I hope you'll help me make the ending a good one. Feel free to share a link to the Hillsborough County Dems recording that will be up later. Also, Granite State Matters is building a list for Free State awareness actions. You can sign up at the website or with this QR code. Once I hear what people are planning to do around the community, we'll be putting out action items and information. And you'll find more materials for your Free State Awareness Toolbox at our website. These include a 9-minute video, a free booklet to download, flyers, a list of questions to help ID Liberty candidates, suggestions for LTE writing, and other action items. So thank you all for listening, and thank you to Katie Kushel and the Hillsborough County Dems for sponsoring this webinar. Let's say stop.
Great. And do you want to take some questions, Jeanne?
Sure, I would be happy to. Let me get my screen fixed up again here. Okay. What have we got here? Okay. Are we related to Granite State Progress? No, we're not. Oh. How did I get that newsletter? How did I get that newsletter? I'm not telling. Why aren't the Dems whoops. Why aren't the Dems calling them out in every chance they get? I think they are often. I know Wendy Thomas certainly is. Yes, there is. Is there a published list? Yes, there is a published list, and yes, it can be sent to you. If you go on our website, up in the, that's granitestatematters.org, up in the top right-hand corner, you'll see a thing that says download flyer. And on the back of that flyer, there's a list of them. Okay. The group is growing. I believe there's still, how do they, oh, well, I think we answered that probably in the film. Is WMUR complicit? I don't know if you would call it complicit, just because they deleted an interview at the request of the person who was interviewed. I'm not sure I would call that complicit. How do we know the Free Staters are running? I hope I tried to start to answer to that. If you go on our website, you'll see up at the top, one of the pages is how to ID a Free State or Liberty Alliance person. Okay. Again, a link to the Free State office holders, yeah. Are the Proud Boys associated with the Free Staters? I don't think so. No, I think it's a totally separate organization. Though I do want to say that one of the things that the Free Staters are trying to do, and some of them are already doing, is my understanding, is running militia trainings. If you ever listen to Representative Wendy Thomas, she can tell you how she thinks they want to use crypto to create their own currency. They plan to have their own army through the militia. And even though they've given up on officially trying to secede, or most of them have, that still is their goal. But I don't know that that is true. But certainly they're taking steps in that direction. Are there programs or trainings available for running for office? Definitely. Go to 603 forward. I believe that's the one. Katie, is that the place to
Yes,
get the
603 forward. Also, contact your town committee and let them know you're interested in running and they can help you. And in addition to Jean's suggestions about how to get involved, we really need to educate voters about what's going on in not just with the Free Staters, but the legislation that was passed. So please contact your town committee, get involved, write letters to the editor. Let's hold these Republicans accountable.
Are the Free Staters targeting other states? The Free State Project is all about New Hampshire. Are libertarians targeting other states? Definitely. J.D. Vance is a libertarian. He is funded by billionaire libertarians, let's see, Peter Thiel and Mark Andreessen, our dear friend, my brain is going dead right now, Mr. Fly to Mars. Our friend who took over for a while and wants to go to Mars. Elon Musk. Sorry, I need a glass of water here. So the Free Staters, this project is going on all over the world, believe it or not. Peter Thiel has purchased part of an island town, I believe, in Guatemala. There's a whole story. Look it up online, all I can tell you. Okay. Yeah, how do we identify first-time candidates? As I say, go to the website ID. It talks about how to ID libertarians and free staters. You had difficulty reading the list of free state reps. Well, you weren't supposed to be able to read it. No, I was just wanting you to be able to see how huge number there are. As I say, if you go to the website up in the top right-hand corner, you can download a flyer, and they're all listed on the back. Disaffected Republicans. Sure. Bill Marsh is on our board. He used to be a Republican, and we certainly are very happy to. I mean, I'm on the Democratic committee here, but I'm actually undeclared. So we definitely want to work with Republicans, and this has to be a bipartisan effort. That's how they won in Belknap County, is by putting out a bipartisan list that showed who the extremists were and who everybody else was. How many reporters are aware of the Free State Project and have written about it? Some of them have. I mean, I can't answer that question. There's a Boston TV series about the Free State Project, but unfortunately, when outsiders tend to come in, they tend to emphasize the quirky aspects of it and make it look like it's not very important and kind of silly, you know. And it has certainly its quirky aspects, but no. How many free staters are there in New Hampshire? I hear 3,000 to 5,000 are the numbers I hear, but I don't think anybody really knows. Will you be doing this presentation again anytime soon? Well, that's up to you, Liz. If you invite me, I'm open to invitations. So, other actions we can take beyond casting informed votes. These are what we need before we get on to voting. We've got to make everybody aware. This is an awareness project. So yes, you need to spread the word.
Jeanne, do you want to touch a little bit about the housing issue and what the Free Staters and their tracts of land and all that kind of stuff? Or do you want to leave that alone?
Well, we do know that certain Free Staters have purchased, 150-acre tracts of land. Supposedly, I hear many different things that they want to do. From Wendy Thomas on the Energy Committee, she works with them. They're definitely trying to eventually, I mean, the technology is not ready yet, but eventually get small nuclear into a tract and then put up server farms. They're trying to attract crypto currency people to bring giant server farms in here and create crypto. And but in addition to that, they want to move huge numbers of people in. So they're trying to stop towns from being able to outlaw any kind of construction that they might want to do that is less than some of the zoning might allow. So they want to put in manufactured housing and large numbers of homes close together. And in some places, zoning's a hard thing because in some places, it's all NIMBY and, oh, no, you can't do that here. But then on the other hand, you don't want to force a little historic town to let a big development come in just because they've got a lot of empty land. That would change the entire character of the town. And that's why we have local zoning, is so that each town can decide for itself what it wants its nature to be. And the state has some right to say, well, look, you can't be too exclusive and you can't do this and that. But on the other hand, we don't want huge. We don't want to turn into Tennessee. So, but in addition to crypto, there are people who want to bring militia in and do militia training. And then there are people who just want to jam lots of houses together. So we don't really know what would be going on there. So yes, do you think this goal is to get this one state and then get another state? Well, certainly New Hampshire is considered a toehold. And Arizona is another state that has a lot of libertarians in it. Texas, you'll see, is going that way. Utah, I believe. So yeah, it's one of the states. The end goal is to take over the whole country and world, of course, and let everybody do anything they want. But so okay, someone's asking for publications. We do have publications that are downloadable online electronically, and we can give people flyers. We're happy. This one wants David Bobman asked for Raymondtown Democrats booth, and we'd be happy to do that. I think my next talk that I have scheduled is at Peaches and Politics. So we'll be talking there too.
Jean, David Trumbull is asking, what is Governor Ayotte's relationship with the Free Staters?
I think Kelly Ayotte's a very savvy politician, and she goes where the money and the power is, and you know, tries to wend her way in between all these forces. So she certainly has capitulated to them on a number of policies, and I would call it that. I would call it capitulated. And I think that she feels a lot of pressure from them, and she gives into pressure. She's a person who gives into pressure. Yeah.
Also going to read a post that I think is important from Amherst Representative Dan LeClaire. He says, we need to keep in mind that the Republicans in the State House are siding with these folks and that we need to let their voters know. And I personally agree that we focus on the Free Staters, but they're all really part and parcel of the same issue. They're voting as a bloc and all a problem, in my opinion. What are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are that we really have to approach this bipartisanly. As you well know, the plurality in this state are undeclareds, and they generally do not like partisan messaging. I think it's crucial that we not do this Republican Democratic thing, though, as you saw in this whole presentation, it's about how the Libertarians have taken over the Republican Party. Well, they do that by primarying anybody who doesn't vote with them. And so what we have to do is to make sure that we identify those people who are coming in and primarying one and ruining the Republican Party. And what I hear from, as I say, Bill Marsh is on our board, as you know, and he says that you cannot run. Unlike the Democratic Party, where you can come and run, you know, whether they like you or not, as I know, the Republican Party, if you are not approved by them, you won't get on the ticket. And they'll make sure that you don't get to run. So it's a lot stricter, and that has allowed the Libertarians to take over. So did I answer your question? Sorry, I don't know. But I do think that identifying the people who are promoting these policies is what we've got to do. And we have to work at the local level. I hope I emphasize that enough. I don't think we can win by doing anything but each of us working in our own towns. I think we've each, okay, I live in a safe Dem district, so I've got to, I've got to go around and talk to everybody. But if you can possibly work in your own town, and help at least people in your region, maybe other towns in your school district or something, to approach this problem, I think that's the way that we're really going to make a difference, in my opinion. What do I know about the Free State logo, the porcupines? So the Free State logo is a porcupine because supposedly they roll in a ball and they're only defensive because according to them, they're never aggressive. I think Jason Osborne hasn't read the message here, but so according to the porcupine logo, they roll in a ball and the spines are sticking out. So just leave me alone, don't bother me. That's the logo.
So Donna Marburkett asks, since the Free Staters like to separate themselves from this term, what term would be best to refer to them? I have heard people call them freeloaders, since they don't pay taxes, but
Yeah, I like that. The freeloaders and the Liberty liars is my but they don't like to be called free staters. What do they like? Libertarians? What is it? Donna.
well, I removed it, but she said Free Staters. I haven't heard them complain about that personally, but they seem very proud of themselves, actually. So,
Oh, well, a lot of the people aren't free staters. So you're only a free stater if you actually moved here from out of state. So the Liberty Alliance, I should have explained this. The Liberty Alliance includes both the Free Staters who moved into the state and what they call homegrown libertarians, natives. And so the Liberty Alliance includes both of those. So I think those people don't want to be called Free Staters, the homegrown ones. So that makes sense. And you can call them Liberty Alliance or Liberty Liars or whatever you want. But yeah. Have you attempted? Oh, I like this question. Have you attempted to reach out to Free Staters to express your concerns? So I attended the New Hampshire Liberty Forum in 2024. The reason I went was because Jason Sorens was presenting a panel on why local control doesn't work. And I saw that and I said, wait a minute, libertarians are all about local control because the closer you get to the voters, then supposedly the more fair everything is. So when I saw Jason Sorens was doing this panel, I thought, oh, I'm going to go listen to that. So I went to this hotel in Nashua and they knew I was coming because, of course, I'd registered. And they had a runner waiting for me at the door. And he went in and told, so when I got to the lobby there, all the leadership was standing there and they had these buttons. I don't know if you remember, Katie, we used to have a list of extremists and so they all had these yellow buttons on that said, I'm on the list. So they're very proud of being extremists on the list. And in fact, some people came up to me and said, why didn't you put me on the list?
yes, they're proud of themselves, like I said. So,
but anyway, so your question is, yes, I've reached out to the Free Staters. And let's see, what Jeremy Kaufman told me that I was on the deportation list. I don't know if you probably weren't able to read one of those little signs that was up there, but yeah, I'm on the deportation list.
a few people have made reference to columnist Gary Raynow, indepthnewhampshire.com. He's a wonderful political columnist. If you don't follow him already, please do.
Yeah. Waiting till September. Well, here's a good statement. I'm ready to start campaigning. It will take a lot of time to speak to people face to face, and I'd love to know good people who decide to run for office ASAP so we can get a jump on. Okay, well, I think probably Katie has some suggestions for you on how to make that happen, Erin. I think she'd probably suggest that you go talk to your town committee.
Yes, do connect with your town committee, and if you find that your town committee doesn't exist or isn't very active, then contact your county committee, either Hillsborough County if you live in Hillsborough County, but we have a lot of people here across the state, so contact your own county committee. And yeah, definitely we need people to get involved. Like I said, we need to hold Republicans accountable, Free Staters and others, for passing a crappy bill and all the other miserable legislation that they passed.
Janine Lesser's asking, did the lobbying legislation pass? No. Fortunately, it did not pass. But in 2024, they put the bill in again in 2025, and it did not pass again. New Hampshire Municipal Association is working really hard to keep that one from passing, fortunately.
So Will Thomas is asking, he asked, doing more to expose the platform, which we've talked a little bit about, but he's also asking, what is the relationship of, if any, with Christian right?
Some of the Free Staters are Christians, strong Christians, part of the Christian right. For instance, our friend Commissioner Edelblut. He is an extreme Christian, and he is on the board of, I think it's called Patrick Henry College. All his kids went to Hillsdale College, which are both Christian colleges. But Patrick Henry is one of those that lobbied to allow religious funding, religious schools to be taxpayer funded. So yes, there are some of the Christian, but it's not uniform at all. I see a couple people asking, are they connected to the Project 2025 folks? Libertarians are definitely connected to the Project 2025 folks, and the Kochs and the Billionaires are definitely connected to the Project 2025 folks. I don't think the Free Staters in particular are connected now. Do we think we can win some of the Free Staters over? Not very many, no. So I say it's a cult. There are a few people who've left the Free State movement and either just are disinterested or a few are antagonistic to it. But no, I don't think that's it. I think we have a whole lot of unknowing residents that are going to be a lot easier to convince than Free Staters. Some of these group questions are just very hard. No forum or way to reach the majority of residents with info on Free Staters. So I think I'd be happy to come up to Auburn and talk to anyone you can get to show up. I think that we have flyers that you can hand out. But yeah, it's hard. If you don't have a newspaper, you don't have any access. Again, I think you need to find a group. I know there are indivisible groups up that way, I think. But there are a lot of other groups in addition to the party who are working on this issue. Let's see.
Someone asks, are the Free Staters behind the discontinuing of vehicle inspections?
Definitely. Yes. Let's see. Here's a question for you, Katie. May we freely share the recording of this session?
Sure, it's going to be up on YouTube. I'll send a link. May not be till tomorrow, but maybe tonight. And we put it on YouTube, and we will share out to all registered folks. And I'm sure there's a few Free Staters here tonight that might want to look at it.
Oh,
Anything else you want to answer? There's a lot of questions there, but we will share out, I'll share out the link again to Granite State Matters. I will share out the video, and you can go there for information. I know a few people have asked for the list of people who have gotten very positive ratings by the Liberty Alliance, and Jeanne has that put together. That's on your website, Jeanne?
yeah, it's on the website. Go to the top corner where it says download flyer, and it's on the back page of that flyer.
So
Um,
sorry if we didn't get to all the questions today. We got 2 minutes left if you have anything else, Jeanne, but if you,
I just want to say, somebody's asking if we can provide yard signs. I think, next year, we're talking about doing another postcarding campaign that a bunch of you helped with already, and especially Katie, and Kent Street. We also put out yard signs and we can make those available. So we definitely are going to be doing more of that as the year goes by. But I think the thing that you can do most is share this presentation or have me come and talk to a group, at least try to get some people there. As I say, if you can have a bipartisan group, that's better. League of Women Voters I've spoken with and other bipartisan groups so that we can, particularly, if you're in a town that doesn't have a lot of Democrats.
and Jeanne, will you have a link for people to sign up to help with stuff, or is that something you want me to share?
Yeah, if I tell you what I'll do is I'll just put it up. I'll go back to the link right now, and everybody can see that, I think. Can they?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So,
if you can send that to me too, Jeanne, and then I can include that in the follow-up email. But I want to thank Jeanne Dietsch for all the work she's been doing for years now, making people, voters, aware of the dangers of the Free State Project. Like she mentioned, a couple years ago, we sent out over 100,000 postcards to towns where they had free state or legislators, and that was a powerful impact. And there's still a lot of education to do, but we're moving the needle. So thank you all for attending tonight. We had over 200 attendees on this Zoom webinar, which is awesome, on a beautiful summer evening. And we'll follow up with an email with the items that we mentioned. So thank you all. Appreciate it. Have a good evening.